So this is a different kind of Gunpla video, which seems pretty obvious because there's no review attached. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Gunpla shortage and my general thoughts on it. Now, as a disclaimer, I want to point out that all my information comes from the same internet sources anyone else can find online. I do not have any secret sources within Bandai or anything like that. So the information I'm using is based on people's personal accounts and deductive reasoning based on evidence that I have seen. If anyone has any kind of information that could help in discerning what is going on and how long it'll last, by all means, please let me know. And now let's get on to the evidence and my theories. So first off, for those who don't know, there seems to be some sort of Gunpla shortage. You can go online and find plenty of pictures of empty shelves at hobby shops and various anime stores wherein Gunpla kits should be but have completely evaporated. I have been to two different stores wherein all that was left at one store were RX-78-2s and Zaku, and that's about it. And at the other store, they had only the more expensive kits, such as the Bound Dock, the Kasi Gundam, as well as a handful of Master and Perfect grades. And I believe some Magnacs, and that's about it. Overall, it seems kind of strange that we're not seeing a lot of kits around, especially in a time period where people will be more than willing to buy kits. The only regret I have about going to these two stores is I did not take photos to add to the Gestalt online, but I think there's enough photos where you can really feel the lack of kits. In addition to that, I have noticed online and at the couple of conventions I've gone to that price gouging for kits seems to have really become a thing. Now, obviously we're going to get a little bit of a markup here in the United States, because we can't just go to our local store in Japan and buy the kits. There's always going to be a little bit extra we're going to have to pay, whether that extra is really high shipping if we are ordering them from Japan, or we'll get a small markup so that the store in America can make, a profit. There's nothing wrong with the price being $2 or $3 higher, because honestly, it'd probably be cheaper for me to buy the kit here than to order it from Japan, because the markup here and the tax will be lower than what it would cost to do the shipping. However, when I went to a convention and hit up a booth where the Noble Gundam was $55, this is just the standard high grade, mind you, and that other high grade kits were running somewhere between $40 to $60, and another booth at the same con where the Gundam wing kits were running into the low 20s, this felt a little odd to me. These were a bit higher prices than I'm used to seeing. And in the case of that one booth, extremely high prices compared to what I'm used to seeing. And while someone could say, oh, well, Gundam kits always get a little bit of a push, that might be true. But at the booth that had the wing kits about $10 higher than they should be, I also saw a whole pile of power bases and weapon kits, both of which were their standard price. The weapon kit's going about $5, $6, and the power base is going $8 to $10. And while I did grab a couple of the power bases, I really didn't want to drop the money on any of the high grade kits being pushed up $10, and that's excluding the real grades and the master grades there, all of which had a $10 to $20 push as well. While this is all circumstantial evidence, it is enough to imply that there is something going on with Gundam kit distribution. Which brings me to my theories about the Gunpla shortage. First off, when the thing I'm not allowed to talk about on YouTube happened to the entire world, a lot of people, myself included, went to various stores and bought quite a few model kits. I still have several in a bag that need to be built. People were going out of their way to either order online or go to their local stores before everything shut down so they could have as many kits as possible. And that mentality hasn't fully left, as far as I can tell. When restocks do come in, they don't last particularly long because everyone is rushing to get new kits to not only fill out their roster, but also to just give them something to do if they're still stuck at home. Or if they like to have a stockpile for those rainy days, they need to rebuild that stockpile after building a bunch of kits during their lockdown time. Now, the other thing we should probably keep in mind is that during the lockdown time of 2020, a lot of factories, a lot of businesses had work at home or just had people stay home. I assume this was the same for Japan. And if that is the case, then we probably didn't have a lot of people working at the various factories that produce Gunpla model kits. They probably had a much smaller worker team, which means a much smaller output. Which is probably why Bandai was really pushing Premium Bandai last year, because they could then get a number of pre-orders, then have people build that number and then ship that number out without having to worry about shipping to various stores. In addition to that, we didn't see nearly as many new kits last year or this year for any grade. Yeah, they still had new kits. If you take a look at the new kit listings of 2018 or 2019 and compare those to 2020 and 2021, you'll see a drastic difference in numbers. This can probably be attributed to factories either being shut down or being on such a low level of workers that they can't produce as much, so even if they announced something, there is still a very long delay before that even comes out. Finally, I'd like to bring up resources. You see, when events like the Olympics happen, they do eat up a lot of resources, usually more like concrete and steel, but they could potentially be using certain plastics as well. This may have limited the amount of resources Bandai had to work with to produce model kits. Even if the Olympics had no effect on the amount of plastic in Japan, let's also point out that plastics are usually produced out of various chemicals at certain factories. If those factories are low on manpower, well, we're finding the exact same problem. Now we're just going from a different angle. We have the lack of resources going to a facility that has a lack of workers, and thus we have a lack of model kits. It'll probably take some time for things to normalize. What we really need to do right now is just be patient. I find it highly unlikely that the GunPla shortage will remain a continuous thing. And I bet we're going to see more kits on the shelves and more announcements in 2022, and things feeling basically back to normal in 2023 or 2024 at the latest. What we need to do right now is just be patient. Don't freak out. It's not like they're going to stop making GunPla anytime soon. This is a huge moneymaker for Bandai, and they're not just going to quit. So those are my thoughts on the shortage. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, if you have other theories, and if you have photos, post them in the comments as well, because there's a lot of people who don't think this is actually going on, and I feel there's more than enough personal stories to say there is. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with more GunPla reviews and, of course, D&D stuff very soon, so keep your eyes open to my channel, like and subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you at the tavern.